My best friend stole my business idea with a smile on his face and my own pitch deck in his hands. That is the part people always misunderstand when I tell the story. They imagine betrayal comes with shouting, slam doors, obvious lies, and dramatic warnings. Sometimes it does. But the worst betrayal I ever lived through arrived wearing the same jacket I had lent him the winter his heat got cut off, carrying coffee the way he always did when we worked late, calling me brother while he was already planning to erase my name. His name was Marcus Bell, and for 21 years I believed he was family. My name is Daniel Price. I am a black man from Cleveland, 40 years old now, and when this story began I was 34, broke enough to count gas before driving across town, stubborn enough to keep building, and tired enough to mistake loyalty for proof. Marcus and I met in 7th grade after a teacher seated us together because we were both talkative distractions, which meant we asked too many questions and did not laugh when boys in the back called us names. He was white, skinny, restless, and funny in the way lonely kids become funny to survive. I was quiet, watchful, and angry at things I did not yet have language for. We became friends because neither of us fit anywhere cleanly. By high school, we were inseparable. By college, we had a shared dream. By our 30s, he knew every scar in my life well enough to aim at it without missing. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from today, and if you believe some people only call you brother until the room starts asking who deserves credit. Stay with this story until the end. The idea was called Root at first. Ugly name, I know. Marcus made fun of it constantly. It was a logistics platform designed for small local businesses that could not afford the expensive supply chain tools big companies used. Corner stores, neighborhood pharmacies, food banks, small manufacturers, independent restaurants, school lunch suppliers, church pantries, mobile clinics, anyone moving goods through cities with tight margins and unreliable systems. I had watched those businesses struggle for years while working as an operations analyst for a regional delivery company. The big players had software that predicted delays, optimized routes, consolidated shipments, and tracked inventory. Smaller businesses had spreadsheets, group texts, cash app payments, memory, hope, and one tired driver named Pete who knew which loading dock manager would answer the phone after 6. Root was supposed to change that. Not with some shiny fantasy about disruption, but with practical tools built for people who could not pay $10,000 a month just to be treated as real businesses. The platform would let small operators share delivery routes, pool warehouse space, forecast demand, find trusted drivers, and access short-term insurance coverage. It was born from every late night I spent watching small businesses lose money, not because their products were bad, but because the infrastructure around them had been designed for people already big enough to matter. Marcus loved the idea when it was ours. He was not technical the way I was, but he was persuasive. He could turn a sentence into a bridge. He had worked in marketing for 2 startups and understood how to package things investors wanted to hear. I built the model. He shaped the story. At least that was how I saw it then. We spent nights at my apartment with my laptop balanced on a stack of old textbooks, walls covered in sticky notes, pizza boxes on the floor, and my dog sleeping under the table like even she was tired of hearing about root density. I coded the prototype after my day job. I interviewed store owners on weekends. I mapped delivery patterns block by block. I built early spreadsheets that proved small businesses within a 5-mile cluster could cut transport costs by nearly 30% if they coordinated demand. Marcus recorded customer stories, polished the language, created the first pitch deck, and told me that one day we would sit across from investors who had ignored men like me all our lives and make them listen. "Brother," he said one night, raising a cheap beer in my kitchen, "when this hits, nobody will be able to pretend they don't see you." I believed him. That was my first mistake, not believing the company could work. It could. My mistake was believing Marcus wanted me seen as much as he wanted the idea seen. The first cracks appeared during meetings with potential advisors. When we met with a retired logistics executive named Harold Gaines, a black man who had built distribution networks before either of us knew what inventory meant, Harold directed most of the technical questions to me. Marcus interrupted twice, not rudely at first. just enough to reposition himself in the center. Afterward, he said, "You need to get more comfortable with storytelling, man. Investors don't fund spreadsheets." I told him Harold was asking operations questions, not investor questions. Marcus shrugged. Same thing eventually. Then came the name change. He hated Route. Fair enough, I hated it too. He suggested FlowShare, then Local Lift, then finally Civic Route. That one worked. I liked it. But when he redesigned the deck, the first slide changed from founded by Daniel Price and Marcus Bell to a Marcus Bell venture built with Daniel Price. I noticed immediately. "What does built with mean?" I asked. He laughed. "It just reads cleaner." Cleaner than co-founded by? Don't get sensitive. There it was. Sensitive. A word I had heard from white managers, white teachers, white colleagues, and now my best friend. A word that meant I had noticed something he preferred not to discuss. He changed it back after I pushed, but the air shifted. He began taking calls without me because they were just relationship building. He started saying my job was to keep building while he handled the business side. He suggested that during investor meetings I lead technical demos but let him frame the vision. "You can get too deep too fast," he said. "I don't want them lost in the weeds." "The weeds are the product," I told him. He smiled like I had made his point. Then we got the meeting that changed everything. A venture firm called Norland Capital agreed to hear the pitch. They were interested in logistics technology and urban infrastructure. Marcus was ecstatic. He came to my apartment in a new blazer he could not afford, pacing the room, rehearsing lines. I had spent 2 weeks refining the demo, adding a route pooling simulation based on real data from 3 local grocers and a nonprofit clinic. It worked beautifully. Not perfect, but alive. The night before the meeting, Marcus asked me to send him the final deck and demo files so he could load everything cleanly. I sent them. Of course I did. He was my best friend. The next morning, I woke up with a fever, not metaphorical, real fever, chills, sore throat, dizziness. I called Marcus and told him I was going to urgent care first, but would make the meeting. He sounded concerned, too concerned. "Don't push it," he said. "We can reschedule." "No, we waited months." "Daniel, you look terrible. If you show up sick, it could hurt the pitch." "I'll be there." He hesitated. "Okay, just text me when you're close." I arrived 15 minutes late, sweating under my dress shirt, throat burning, carrying my laptop in one hand and a bottle of water in the other. The receptionist at Norland Capital looked confused when I gave my name. She checked her tablet twice. "I'm sorry," she said. "The Civic Route meeting began 20 minutes ago." "I know, I'm part of it." She frowned. "I only have Marcus Bell listed." I thought it was a mistake. It was not. A partner walked out of the glass conference room just as I approached. Through the open door, I saw Marcus standing at the screen, presenting my route simulation, my code, my maps, my customer interviews, my model. But on the title slide, the founder name was singular, Marcus Bell, founder and CEO. I stood there in the hallway while his voice carried through the glass. I built Civic Route after seeing how small businesses in underserved neighborhoods were locked out of efficient logistics. I built, not we, not Daniel and I. I built. The room tilted. For a moment, I could not move. Then Marcus saw me. His face changed so quickly most people would have missed it. Surprise, panic, calculation. Then a smile. He stepped out into the hallway and closed the door behind him. "Daniel," he whispered, "what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" My voice barely worked. "You took me off the meeting." No, it's not like that. You're pitching my work as yours. Our work. Your slide says founder and CEO. He looked toward the conference room, then back at me. "Listen, Norland wanted one clear founder voice. I was going to bring you in after interest was established." "You were going to bring me in?" "As technical co-founder, obviously." "Obviously enough to remove my name?" His jaw tightened. "You're sick. You're emotional and you're about to blow this for both of us." I stared at him. For both of us. He lowered his voice. "Daniel, be smart. Rooms like this respond to me differently. You know that. We can hate it or we can use it." That sentence did more than hurt. It revealed the architecture of the betrayal. He did not think he was stealing from me. He thought he was translating me into something wealthier white people could accept, then keeping the larger share because translation, in his mind, was ownership. "Open the door," I said. "No." "Open the door, Marcus. Not like this." I stepped around him and opened it myself. Every investor in the room turned. Marcus followed, face flushed. I stood near the doorway, feverish and shaking, but suddenly very awake. "Excuse the interruption," I said. "My name is Daniel Price. I built the Civic Route prototype, developed the routing model, conducted the original customer research, and co-founded this company with Marcus Bell. I am not listed on that deck because he removed me without permission." The room froze. One investor, a white woman in her 50s with short silver hair, looked at Marcus. "Is that true?" Marcus laughed once, badly. "This is a misunderstanding. Daniel is our lead developer. He's been under stress." Lead developer, under stress. I felt something inside me close. The silver-haired investor looked back at me. "Do you have documentation?" That question saved me from looking like the scene Marcus needed me to become. Documentation. I had years of it. Emails, prototype commits, customer interviews, original sketches, text messages, shared files. I said, "Yes." Marcus's face went pale. The meeting ended immediately. Norland did not invest. Nobody invested. Marcus called me 47 times that week. I did not answer. Then he emailed a legal letter claiming Civic Route was his concept and that I had attempted to sabotage a legitimate investment process due to personal resentment. Personal resentment. Another polished phrase for justified fury. My own lawyer, Denise Carver, read the letter and said, "He's scared." He should be. Maybe, but fear makes people dangerous. We need to move carefully. The next 6 months became the ugliest season of my life. Marcus filed documents claiming ownership of the brand and investor materials because he had created the pitch deck. I filed claims over the code, research, and business model. He told mutual friends I had become jealous because he was better with investors. Some believed him. That hurt almost as much as the theft. People who had eaten at my table, watched us build together, borrowed money from me and him both, suddenly said things like, "There are two sides." There are always two sides, yes, but sometimes one side has commit history and the other has a stolen slide deck. I lost weight, stopped sleeping. My dog Pepper started placing her head on my knee whenever I opened my laptop because even she knew the machine had become a battlefield. I almost gave up. Not because Marcus was right, but because betrayal from a best friend poisons the work itself. Every file reminded me of nights we had laughed. Every investor email reminded me of him standing in that glass room saying I built. Denise refused to let me quit. So did Harold Gaines, the retired logistics executive. He came to my apartment one evening with soup, cornbread, and the bluntness of an elder who had survived too much to romanticize pain. "You going to let that boy steal your future because he already stole your trust?" he asked. "I'm tired." "Be tired tomorrow. Tonight we make a list." "Of what?" "Everyone who actually needs the thing you built." That was how Civic Route became something new. I could not use the name during the legal dispute, so Harold suggested Groundshare. Better name, better mission, better beginning. This time I did not start with investors. I started with users, store owners, clinic managers, school food coordinators, nonprofit distribution teams, independent drivers. I offered a basic version free for 3 months in exchange for data and feedback. I spent Saturdays in back offices above corner stores, sitting beside owners who kept receipts in shoeboxes. I rode with drivers at 5 a.m. I stood in food bank warehouses watching volunteers build routes with markers on printed maps. I listened. I rebuilt the platform from scratch. using my original knowledge but cleaner, stronger, more legally protected. Every line documented, every contributor contracted, every user agreement clear. Harold introduced me to a credit union network. Denise introduced me to a cooperative business advisor. A Latina operations manager named Sofia Reyes became my first hire after she told me my onboarding flow was designed by a man who thinks patience is a user interface. She was right. We fixed it. The first breakthrough came from a neighborhood pharmacy group that used GroundShare to coordinate deliveries for elderly patients. Medication delivery times dropped by 38%. Then a food bank network used the platform to reduce duplicate routes and reach 4 additional neighborhoods without increasing fuel costs. Then a school district piloted it for emergency meal distribution during a winter storm. We were still tiny, but the product worked because it had been built with the people who needed it, not merely pitched about them. Meanwhile, Marcus was struggling. He had the deck, the logo, the vocabulary, and a prototype he did not know how to maintain because he had never understood the model underneath. He hired contractors to recreate what I built, but they lacked the field data and operational relationships. He renamed Civic Route to UrbanFlow and raised a small pre-seed round from investors who liked his confidence. For a while, the press favored him. Young founder building logistics access for underserved communities. Photos of Marcus standing in front of warehouses he did not serve. Quotes about equity he did not practice. Every article felt like glass under my skin. Then customers began complaining. The software was pretty but brittle. Route pooling failed under real conditions. Drivers hated the app. Store owners said onboarding felt like a loan application. Marcus responded by blaming user adoption barriers. That phrase made Harold laugh for a full minute. User adoption barriers, he said. Fancy way of saying folks won't use what doesn't work. The moment everything changed came at the Great Lakes Impact Investment Forum 2 years after the Norland disaster. By then, GroundShare had real traction but little press. We had 52 paying organizations, hundreds of local businesses using shared routes, and data showing meaningful cost reductions. I had been invited to present on a small panel about community infrastructure, not the main stage. Marcus was scheduled for the main startup showcase with UrbanFlow. I almost declined when I saw his name. Sophia told me not to be a coward. Harold told me to stop letting thieves choose which rooms I entered. Denise told me not to say anything that could complicate the settlement negotiations. Everyone has a role. The forum was held in a downtown hotel with glass elevators and coffee so expensive it felt like a dare. Marcus saw me before his presentation. He walked over wearing a navy suit, smiling tightly. Daniel. Marcus. I heard you're still working on your version. I heard yours still doesn't route correctly. His smile faded. You always had to make things personal. You stole my work. I positioned the opportunity. There it was again. The disease had advanced. He had lived inside the lie so long it had started decorating. Good luck on stage, I said. He leaned closer. You know what your problem always was. You wanted credit more than scale. I looked at him for a long second. No, I wanted credit for what I built. You wanted scale without earning it. His jaw tightened, but he walked away. Marcus presented first. The deck was beautiful. His language was smooth. He spoke about closing the logistics gap for overlooked businesses. He showed charts, projections, market maps, and photos of smiling store owners. Then an investor in the front row asked a simple question. How many active paying businesses are currently coordinating routes through UrbanFlow? Marcus answered around it. We're in pilot conversations across several strategic markets. Another investor asked, actual usage? He smiled. We're pre-scale. The room cooled. Then someone asked about routing accuracy in dense multi-stop environments. Marcus gave a vague answer about AI optimization. A technical advisor pressed further. What model architecture are you using for route pooling under variable inventory constraints? Marcus blinked once. He had memorized many things. Not that. Our engineering team is refining that, he said. It was not a disaster, but it was not good. Then came my panel, smaller room, fewer lights, less glamour. Sophia stood beside me, and instead of opening with market size, I opened with Mrs. Alvarez, a corner store owner who used to pay 3 different drivers because nobody coordinated deliveries on her block. I showed real routes, real savings, real mistakes, real redesigns. Then I ran a live demo using data from a food bank, pharmacy network, and school meal program. It worked, not perfectly because real systems are messy, but honestly. A white investor from Norland Capital was in the back, not the silver-haired woman from the first meeting, but someone younger. He asked, "How defensible is this product if competitors build similar tools?" Sophia answered before I could. "They can copy features. They can't copy trust, local relationships, field feedback, or the operational model we built with users instead of for them." The room shifted. People leaned forward. After the panel, investors surrounded us. For the first time, not because a polished man had made my idea sound acceptable, but because the work had made itself undeniable. Then I saw her, the same silver-haired investor from Norland. Her name was Caroline Mercer. She waited until the crowd thinned, then approached me. "Mr. Price," she said, "I remember you." I almost smiled. "I remember your conference room. I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For ending that meeting without asking who really built it more carefully." She glanced across the hall where Marcus stood alone near his booth, watching us. "I'd like to ask now." That sentence was the hinge in the story. Who really built it? Not who pitched it, not who branded it, not who stood closest to the projector, who built it. We sat in a side room with Denise on speakerphone, Sophia beside me, and Harold arriving 10 minutes late with a sandwich because he refused to respect investor timing. Caroline asked everything: technical history, customer discovery, original documents, legal status, user adoption, revenue, governance. This time I had no fever, no shock, no best friend standing between me and my own name. I answered clearly. Sophia answered sharply. Harold answered with stories that made the investors both laugh and feel uncomfortably undereducated. Caroline requested formal diligence, not a promise, not a check, but a real opening. Word traveled fast through the forum. By evening, Marcus requested a private conversation. I almost refused, but Denise said listening is free if you do not sign anything. We met in a hotel lounge near the lobby. He looked tired. For the first time in years, he looked less like the man who stole from me and more like the boy who used to sit beside me in 7th grade pretending not to care what people thought. "They're asking questions," he said. "Investors?" "Yes. That happens at investor forums. About you, about the old company, about who built the original model." I waited. He rubbed his face. "Daniel, this could ruin me. You made it survivable for yourself when you thought it would only ruin me." He looked at the table. "I messed up. I laughed once." "No, you spilled coffee on a shirt once. You erased my name from my own work." His eyes reddened. I was afraid. "Of what?" "That if you were the face, they wouldn't fund it." There it was. The same ugly sentence from the Norland hallway, but weaker now, stripped of strategy. "And if you were the face?" I asked. "I thought we had a chance." "We," he swallowed. "I thought I could bring you in after." "You keep saying bring me in like I was outside my own house." He closed his eyes. "I know." "Do you?" "Yes." He leaned forward. "I told myself I was helping us. Then once they responded to me, I wanted to keep being the one they responded to. I liked it. I liked being the founder, the visionary, the guy they wanted in the room." His voice cracked. "And I knew what I was doing to you. I just kept telling myself I'd make it right later." "Later is where cowards store stolen things," I said. He flinched because it was true. "What do you want, Marcus?" "A settlement. You already have a lawyer. No, I mean a real one. I'll acknowledge your original ownership publicly. I'll stop using the model claims. I'll dissolve Urban Flow if I have to. If you have to? He looked at me then, ashamed. I have to. I did not trust the apology, not yet, but I trusted the exhaustion. Lies require maintenance, and he was finally tired of paying the cost. The legal settlement took 4 months. Marcus acknowledged that the original business model, prototype architecture, customer discovery, and technical work had originated with me. Urban Flow ceased operations and transferred remaining non-conflicting assets to a neutral foundation supporting small business logistics education. He did not join GroundShare. I did not want him there. He issued a public statement that said the early history of the company had been misrepresented and that he had failed to give proper credit. It was lawyer clean but still damaging. Some people forgave him quickly because people are often kinder to thieves who confess after they lose leverage. I was not quick. Investors completed diligence. GroundShare raised a responsible funding round led by Norland Capital, but under terms we shaped carefully: community advisory seats, employee equity, user protections, no predatory data monetization, no growth targets that would force us to abandon the businesses we built for. Caroline Mercer joined the board. Harold chaired our community council and enjoyed telling investors when they were using words too large for ideas too small. Sophia became COO. Denise became general counsel. Pepper became unofficial head of morale and slept through board meetings with more wisdom than most people awake. 5 years later, GroundShare operated in 31 cities. Food banks used it, pharmacies used it, school districts used it. Independent drivers formed cooperatives through it. Small stores that once lost money on inefficient delivery networks began pooling routes and negotiating better supplier terms. We did not become the kind of unicorn that tech magazines drooled over because we refused to burn communities for growth. But we became profitable, trusted, and hard to ignore. A national business magazine eventually ran a profile titled "The Logistics Platform" that asked who really built the system. I hated the title. Sophia loved it. Harold said at least they spelled my name right. Marcus wrote me a letter after the article. Not an email, a letter. He said he had moved back near his mother, started working in operations for a nonprofit, and was trying to learn how to be useful without needing to be seen as exceptional. He wrote, "I called you, brother, while treating your trust like a resource I could spend." That line stayed with me. He did not ask for a friendship back. That was the smartest thing he did in the entire apology. I wrote back 2 sentences. "I hope you become honest enough to live with yourself. I am not ready to know that version of you." Years later, at a GroundShare conference in Cleveland, I stood on stage before hundreds of small business owners, drivers, warehouse coordinators, clinic managers, city officials, and young founders. Not the venture crowd Marcus once wanted so badly, though some investors were there too. These were the people the platform existed for. I told them the story without naming Marcus. I said an idea is not just the moment of inspiration. It is the interviews nobody sees, the ugly spreadsheets, the failed demos, the users patient enough to tell you what you got wrong, the code rewritten after midnight, the trust built one conversation at a time. People love asking who had the idea, I said. Better question, who served it? Who stayed when it was unglamorous? Who carried it before it had a name people respected? I looked out at Sophia, Harold, Denise, Caroline, Mrs. Alvarez, and so many others who had helped build the thing properly after theft nearly killed it. Building is not only creation, it is accountability over time. After the speech, a young black founder came up to me holding a notebook. He said his college roommate wanted to pitch their startup alone because investors found him more relatable. He asked what he should do. I told him, put everything in writing, protect your work, and never let someone convince you that your absence from the room is strategy if your labor is already on the screen. He wrote it down like scripture. Maybe it was. People still summarize my story as, my best friend stole my business idea, then investors asked who really built it. That is true, but it leaves out the hard part. The hard part was not proving the idea was mine. Documentation did that eventually. The hard part was rebuilding my relationship with my own work after betrayal made it feel contaminated. The hard part was learning that trust is valuable but not a substitute for contracts. The hard part was accepting that Marcus had loved me in some ways and still stolen from me in others, and that one truth did not erase the other. The hard part was walking into rooms after being erased and not letting the fear of erasure make me smaller, harsher, or less generous with the people who truly deserved a chance. In the end, investors asking who built it mattered because the answer was bigger than my name. I built the first version. Marcus stole the story, but Groundshare was built by a community of people who understood the problem because they lived inside it. That is why it survived. A stolen pitch can win a meeting. It cannot run a route through a snowstorm, deliver medicine to a grandmother, feed students after a school closure, or earn trust from business owners who have been promised help by people who never came back. Marcus wanted the credit before the work had fully matured. I wanted the work to matter enough that credit could no longer be denied. And when that day came, when the same kind of investors who once listened to him finally turned and asked who really built it, I did not have to shout. I had the product, the people, the records, and the roots running in real time. The truth did not need volume, it had infrastructure.